What if you didn't have to keep up anymore? Take a moment and let that thought settle in. So much of life has been shaped around the idea of keeping pace, of meeting expectations, of staying in step with a rhythm that was set long before you even realized you were moving to it. From the moment you wake up, there is a clock reminding you that you are behind. There are lists waiting for you, tasks you didn't finish yesterday, and the silent pressure of tomorrow, already pressing in before today has even begun. For years, maybe even decades, the question has been the same. Am I doing enough? Am I moving fast enough? Am I accomplishing what I'm supposed to? And with each answer, instead of relief, you're met with another question, another expectation, another reason to keep rushing forward. It becomes a race without a finish line. But what if the race isn't real? What if the finish line you've been straining toward doesn't actually exist? What if the whole time, while you've been running faster and faster, life has been gently whispering that there is another way? You may have noticed glimpses of this already. The way a quiet morning feels different when you're not in a hurry. The way time seems to stretch. When you pause to notice the sound of wind in the trees or the way light softens a room. These small moments hint at something you've always known deep down, even if you couldn't name it. Life doesn't demand constant speed. It doesn't measure you by how quickly you move. It waits patiently for you to arrive in the present. The question is simple but powerful. What would happen if you slowed down? What would happen if you stepped away from the constant pace and let yourself breathe? What would happen if you decided that being here, fully here, was enough? This is not about giving up or letting life pass by. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about finally noticing what has been here all along. The taste of your food when you actually pause to savor it. The softness of evening when you allow yourself to notice it settling in. The sense of calm that comes not from finishing everything quickly, but from realizing you don't need to finish everything at all to be at peace. So I ask again, gently and without urgency, what if you didn't have to keep up anymore? What if the question was never about speed, but about presence? What if life isn't something to be conquered, but something to be lived, one steady step at a time? Chapter 1. The Burden of Rushing. Think about how much of life is shaped by a sense of hurry. It starts early in the day. The alarm goes off, and before you've even had a chance to open your eyes fully, you already feel late. The day hasn't even begun, but the pressure has. You rush through your morning, sometimes forgetting what you even did, because your mind is already several steps ahead. Breakfast, if it happens at all, is something to get out of the way rather than something to enjoy. The first moments of the day, which could be soft and grounding, are often swept away by the urgency to get moving. This pattern doesn't end in the morning. It carries into every corner of our lives. We walk quickly, drive quickly, eat quickly, speak quickly. Even when we sit still, our thoughts are rushing on without us, rehearsing what's next, replaying what just happened, or worrying about what hasn't happened yet. The present moment becomes something we skim past, as if it were a page we don't think is worth reading carefully. The burden of this constant rushing is subtle at first. It shows up as tension in your shoulders or a restless feeling you can't quite name. But over time, it becomes heavier. Days start to blur together. Weeks feel shorter, and months vanish without a clear memory of what filled them. You might look back and wonder how time disappeared so quickly. Yet, when you were living it, every hour felt full of pressure. That's the paradox of rushing. It makes life feel both too short and too overwhelming at the same time. There's also the myth that moving faster means we're making better use of our time. We convince ourselves that efficiency equals worth, that if we can do more in less time, then somehow we are living more fully. But the truth is often the opposite. In our attempt to be efficient, we sacrifice depth. We skim the surface of experiences rather than sinking into them. We treat life like a series of tasks rather than a landscape to explore, and in the process, we lose touch with the quiet details that bring meaning. Think of the times you've rushed through a meal without really tasting it, only to realize later you barely remember what you ate. Think of the conversations where you were listening just enough to respond, but not enough to truly hear. Think of the evenings where you filled your time with endless activity, yet ended the night feeling strangely empty. This is the hidden cost of living in a hurry. It is not just exhaustion, it is disconnection. And beneath all of this rushing, there's often an unspoken fear. The fear of not doing enough. The fear of being left behind. The fear that if we slow down, life will somehow move on without us. But the reality is the opposite. By rushing, we are the ones moving past life. By always chasing the next thing, we miss the one thing we actually have, which is the present moment. This is the burden of rushing. It is not only the physical tiredness or the mental strain, it is the quiet sadness of realizing that while we were busy running, we missed the gentle beauty of simply being here. Chapter 2. The choice to slow down. There comes a moment when you begin to realize that the pace you've been living at is not sustainable. Maybe it happens quietly, like a whisper that interrupts your day. Maybe it comes in the form of exhaustion, when you sit down at the end of the day and wonder why you still feel unsatisfied, even after doing so much. Or maybe it comes during an ordinary moment, when you catch yourself rushing through something simple and wonder, almost with surprise, why you are in such a hurry. This realization can be unsettling at first. We have been taught that slowing down means falling behind, that if we ease our pace, we might lose something important. The pressure to keep up is so ingrained that the very idea of moving slower can feel like breaking a rule. But here's the truth. There is no rule. There is no invisible referee keeping score, no stopwatch timing your progress. The only one measuring your pace is you, and you have the power to change it. Choosing to slow down is not about giving up or refusing to move forward. It is about reclaiming ownership of your time. It is about saying that your life does not have to be dictated by urgency. It is about giving yourself permission to live at a rhythm that feels natural instead of one that feels forced. Imagine walking through your day without the constant push to rush. Imagine finishing one thing at a time, fully present in it instead of scattering your energy in every direction. Imagine what it feels like to give your mind space, to allow your body to move without tension, to create moments that are yours rather than moments shaped by pressure. That is what slowing down offers. The choice may feel small, but it is powerful. It is the choice to step out of comparison. You no longer need to measure your pace against someone else's. Their journey is theirs. Yours is yours. And the truth is, there is no single timeline for living. Life is not a straight path with clear checkpoints. It unfolds differently for each of us, and the beauty lies in embracing the pace that feels right for you. There's a kind of freedom that comes with this choice. When you let go of the need to hurry, you begin to notice that the present moment has its own richness. It's the sound of a quiet morning, the comfort of a simple meal, the peace of finishing a small task without distraction. These are the experiences that remind you life isn't just about how much you do, but about how deeply you live the moments you're given. Slowing down doesn't mean you'll never feel busy again. Life will still have seasons of activity, times when things naturally move quickly. But when you've chosen slowness as your foundation, even those busier times feel different. You move through them with more steadiness, more clarity, and less of that frantic edge that used to follow you everywhere. And so the choice is not a one-time decision. It is something you make again and again in small ways. You choose it when you pause instead of rushing out the door. You choose it when you give yourself 5 quiet minutes before bed instead of filling the silence. You choose it when you let a moment unfold without asking it to be anything more than what it is. This is the choice to slow down. It is an invitation to live your life at a pace that belongs to you, a pace that allows you not just to exist, but to truly experience being alive. Chapter 3. The benefits of a gentle pace. When you allow yourself to step out of the rush, something begins to shift. At first, it may feel unfamiliar, even unsettling, because you've been so used to the speed of life. But slowly, as the urgency loosens its grip, you start to notice how much more is available to you when you move at a gentler pace. One of the first changes is presence. Ordinary moments that once slipped by unnoticed begin to feel meaningful again. A meal is no longer just fuel to keep you going. It becomes an experience. You taste the flavors more fully, you notice the textures, and you realize that something as simple as sitting down to eat can bring comfort when it's not rushed. A walk is no longer just about getting somewhere. It becomes a chance to notice the air against your skin, the rhythm of your steps, and the way the world looks when you're not hurrying past it. Your body also responds to this change. Rushing takes a toll that often goes unnoticed because it feels so normal. But when you slow down, the tension that is built up begins to ease. Your shoulders soften, your breathing deepens, and your heartbeat finds a steadier rhythm. You may find that your energy, instead of being burned up in frantic bursts, becomes steadier and more reliable throughout the day. Even sleep can feel different because a calmer mind makes it easier to rest. There is all a change in clarity. When you are always in motion, decisions are made quickly, sometimes out of habit, sometimes out of pressure. But when you slow down, your mind has the space to think more clearly. Choices are not rushed, and solutions often come more easily because they are not forced. The noise quiets, and with it, your thoughts become easier to hear. Relationships with yourself and your surroundings deepen as well. You begin to listen more closely to what your body needs, to what your mind is asking for. You recognize when you are tired, when you are hungry, when you simply need a pause. Instead of pushing those signals aside to stay productive, you start honoring them. And in doing so, you cultivate a sense of respect for yourself that rushing often erases. Another benefit of slowing down is that time itself begins to feel different. In a rushed life, days blur together. You may look back and wonder where the time went, but when you slow down, time expands. Hours feel fuller, not because you're doing more, but because you're noticing more. A single afternoon can feel rich and memorable, not because of any extraordinary event, but because you were present enough to experience it fully. And perhaps the most powerful benefit is the sense of peace that comes with this way of living. Peace not in the sense of a perfect life without difficulty, but peace in the sense that you no longer feel constantly pulled forward. You are not racing toward something just out of reach. You are here in this moment, and that is enough. Slowing down doesn't mean life becomes empty. It doesn't mean you lose your drive or stop caring about the future. Instead, it means you begin to see that joy, fulfillment, and meaning are not only found in big achievements or future milestones. They are found right here, in the small, steady rhythm of daily life. The benefits of a gentle pace aren't abstract. They're felt in your body, noticed in your mind, and carried with you in the way you experience each day. And once you begin to feel them, you realize that what you once feared about slowing down, the worry of missing out, of falling behind, was never true. The opposite is true. By slowing down, you stop missing out on the life that is already here. Chapter 4. Practical ways how to slow down. Slowing down may sound like a beautiful idea, but when you're used to living at a certain pace, it can feel almost impossible to know where to begin. The mind might say, "I don't have time to slow down," or "If I stop moving so quickly, everything will fall apart." And that's why it helps to remember that slowing down is not about changing everything all at once. It begins with small choices, simple practices that gradually shift the rhythm of your days. One of the most powerful places to begin is with your mornings. Instead of leaping out of bed and immediately reaching for your phone or thinking about your to-do list, give yourself a few quiet minutes. It doesn't have to be long. Even 5 minutes spent sitting quietly with a warm drink or opening a window and breathing in the air can change the tone of your entire day. Those first moments remind you that the day doesn't have to start in a rush. It can start gently, with presence. Another way to practice slowing down is to focus on doing one thing at a time. In a world that constantly pushes multitasking, this feels strange at first. But there is something calming about giving your full attention to just one task. Washing dishes slowly, feeling the warm water, noticing the rhythm of your movements, preparing a meal without rushing through it, noticing the colors and scents of the ingredients, writing something down without distraction, allowing your thoughts to unfold naturally. Single tasking turns even ordinary moments into grounding experiences. Creating small pockets of white space or turquoise space in your day is another simple shift. This means allowing for moments with no agenda. It doesn't have to be long or complicated. It could be sitting outside for a few minutes, taking a short walk, or simply closing your eyes in a quiet room. These pauses remind you that rest is not wasted time. Rest is what makes the rest of life more meaningful. Learning to say no is also a part of slowing down. It isn't always easy, but every time you decline something that doesn't truly serve you, you are protecting your time and energy. You are reminding yourself that your worth is not measured by how much you can handle at once. Saying no clears space for what matters most, and it frees you from the endless cycle of overcommitment. Another gentle practice is to bring mindfulness to transitions. The moments when you move from one part of the day to another are often rushed, from work to home, from one task to the next, from morning into evening. But if you allow yourself to pause during these transitions, even for a minute, you give your mind and body time to catch up with where you are. That short pause can turn a rushed day into a steadier one. And perhaps most importantly, remember that slowing down is not about perfection. You don't need to transform your life overnight. You don't need to create a flawless routine. The beauty of slowing down is that it works best when it's gentle, gradual, and kind. Even one small practice repeated consistently can create a ripple effect throughout your days. Slowing down is not about doing less. It's about experiencing more of what you are already doing. It's about noticing the way your food tastes, the way your body feels when you stretch, the way the evening light fills a room. These are the details that rushing causes you to miss, and they are the very details that make life feel whole. So start where you are. Choose one small shift and let it guide you. Over time, these small changes add up, and you begin to feel the difference. Your days feel less like a blur and more like something you're actually living. That is the quiet power of slowing down. Chapter 5. The Gentle Reassurance. At first, slowing down may feel almost unnatural. You've spent so much time moving quickly that a quieter rhythm can feel like unfamiliar territory. You might find yourself growing restless, wondering if you should be doing more. You might even feel guilty, as though giving yourself space is a luxury you haven't earned. These feelings are normal. They are the echoes of the pace you've been taught to keep. But here is the gentle truth. Nothing important is lost when you choose to slow down. The world will not leave you behind. The people who matter will not disappear. Opportunities will not vanish simply because you took a breath. Instead, something different begins to happen. The pressure begins to soften, the tension eases, and life starts to feel less like a series of deadlines and more like an unfolding journey. It helps to remember that slowing down is not about abandoning progress. It doesn't mean you stop caring about goals or stop moving forward in your life. It simply means you move with more intention. You decide what matters instead of letting urgency decide for you. You step into your own rhythm rather than borrowing someone else's. Small adjustments are enough. You don't need a grand plan or a perfect schedule. Even the simplest changes can carry weight. A single deep breath before answering a question, a pause before moving from one task to the next, a quiet moment at the end of the day where you let the noise of the world settle. These little choices, repeated over time, create a life that feels steady instead of frantic. There is a fear that if we slow down, we will fall behind. But the truth is that you are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing out. You are arriving. You are stepping into the moment that is already here, the moment that was waiting for you all along. It may take time to trust this new rhythm. The habit of rushing is strong, and sometimes you may slip back into it without realizing. That is part of the process, too. Slowing down is not about doing it perfectly. It's about noticing when you've sped up again and gently guiding yourself back. Each time you do, it becomes easier. The reassurance you need is simple. You are allowed to live at your own pace. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to take your time. Nothing is wasted in stillness. In fact, stillness often reveals what rushing has hidden. So give yourself grace as you begin. Let the small moments be enough. Let the quiet remind you that life isn't something you need to catch up to. It's something you are already part of, exactly as you are, in this moment right now. So I invite you to consider this. What if you didn't have to keep up anymore? What if you allowed yourself to step out of the race? Life is not measured by how quickly you move through it. It is measured by the moments you truly experience along the way. Give yourself permission to walk gently. Let the days unfold at a pace that feels kind. This is your life. It doesn't need to be rushed. It only needs to be lived.